I'm very pleased to welcome Jeff Groves to the podcast today. Jeff is the founder and CEO of Groves and Company, which is a transformational IT consultancy specialized in creating tailored solutions that address the complex business challenges of its customers. I've worked alongside Jeff as a partner and got the opportunity to admire how he manages his customer engagements and how he built a first-class team focused on customer success. So, Jeff, welcome to the podcast. Take a minute to introduce yourself, if you would.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Bernard. I really appreciate that. As Bernard mentioned, I'm Jeff Groves, founder and CEO of Groves and Company, and we are a procurement transformation consultancy, and we are actually a service-led technology company as well. So we've grown into some different avenues where we saw opportunities to add new value to clients. We did chart to number 142 on the Inc. 5000 list, which is a testament to my team's ability to stick to our core values and serve value in the marketplace. I've been in this space for over 25 years and really have been very convicted that culture isn't a side conversation in transformation. It really is the transformation.
We're going to talk at length about that in a minute. But again, delighted to have you. I've seen you in action and always been impressed by the way that you capture the hearts and minds of the customers with a first-class team. So I'm so glad that we have a chance to share our passion on the podcast today. Holistic selling it's a revenue acceleration system that is built on orchestrating all company functions and processes to enable the frontline team members to deliver extraordinary experiences and outcomes to customers and prospects at every touch point. It requires a focus first on customer centricity and also a set of cultural values, strategies, and tactics that enable the frontline to deliver these experiences and outcomes to customers and prospects. Not easy to do. And I've seen the way that you operate, and I would love for you to talk about the culture that you've deployed at Groves and Company. And I've looked at your cultural values on your website. I would love for you to talk about those cultural values and what they represent for the business.
Sure, absolutely. And I'll say this, Groves and Company is 5 years old. I just turned 5 in January. And one of the things when we started, I've spent a lot of time in the consulting world, not all my entire career in the consulting world, but a big portion of it. And, I've seen how companies operate. I've seen how consultancies work. And I was basically just wanted to change things up because I think there was a way to get away from transactional consulting and really to make a pun, right? Essentially, approach it holistically, right? Really approach it to make sure that we are serving value in a way that makes sense. We're an extension of that client team, and so early when we started, I was really laser focused on client first. That was a big component of how we got started. And while that sounds right, and who could argue with it, right? What I learned, and sometimes the hard way, is that if you don't take care of your people first, then you can't deliver on those client promises. And so we made a deliberate shift and a deliberate step at Groves and Company to be employee first, that really, but be client obsessed. And so we empower our people. We're very focused on empowering our people through our core values to deliver anything they need to take care of our clients first. And so when you think about our core values, we do have an acronym. It's called DRIVE. And those core values, there's 5 core values that we settled on. And we went through a process of figuring out those core values. We didn't just kind of pull them out of hats, or we didn't go to a site that said, oh, here's 500 core values to look through, pick your own. And we actually went out and surveyed our clients, talked amongst our team. We weighted things out. We voted on things and really came up with this DRIVE acronym that then results into number 1 is we deliver wow, right? So deliver wow. Number 2 is do the right thing. 3 is be impeccable with your word. 4 is to help others thrive. And then the 5th one is to evolve, to always seek to simplify and innovate wherever possible. And so we set that up from the very beginning. It's one of the things we first focused on at Groves and Company very, very early on in our existence. We continue to revisit it, right? That's another thing I would say. We continue to revisit it, but what we found is that it has stood the test of time. We all still rally around those core values. We still believe in that. We know that that's still how we operate and how we function. So it's been very interesting. It's been a lot of fun. And basically by having those core values in place, our team knows that, they're out there serving clients, that we need to live those core values. And part of that help others thrive is not just focus on delivering value on a project, but it's actually focusing on the people at the client site, right? Are we equipping them to be successful? And I think that's a big component that a lot of consultancies don't focus on. They focus on, look at their case studies, right? It's like, oh, well, we saved 20% on this, or we cut the cycle time down. But how did that affect Mary, the buyer, or how did that affect, John over in AP? And so we really want to make sure that we're focusing on the people and helping them succeed in their roles as well.
I think that's fantastic. The values I selected for holistic selling are accountability, integrity, empathy, humility, respect, and value creation. And I think they're fully aligned with the values you've adopted for Groves and Company. I've seen, obviously, as you have a lot of companies adopting values, putting them in their lobby or on their website
Right.
nowadays. But how do you make sure that those values are actually practiced and lived every single day between yourselves and also in front of customers?
Right. And yeah, I'd say a big portion of that, right, obviously, is you have to kind of do your own change management around your values initially. So
Right.
we did quizzes, we did spot checks to see if people knew what drive stood for in the acronym, and we gamified it, right? So everybody got those down pat. And then from there it's about the front line, it's about the execution of it, it's about living them day to day. Right. So how if you're on a client site and you see an opportunity to add some value, and this is kind of one of the things we do within our SOWs is we don't focus on, hey, this is the letter of the law, and now we got to do a change order. We say, well, what's going to serve the client best? Okay, we'll pivot within that. And so they've seen us as a leadership team do that. So we model it, and then we allow our people when they're on a project, our project managers and our solution architects and solution consultants, right, to really get in there and do what they need to take care of the client. They're always going to take care of the client first. It makes them feel better about what they're doing and what they're delivering value. We all want purpose. We all want to feel like we're making a difference. And so equipping our people to make that difference with their clients is a game changer.
And so, what is the impact on you as the CEO of the company when you have a set of values like this that
Mhm.
your team members have been trained to adopt? What's the impact of you as you in your day-to-day operations?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of really interesting impacts, right? I didn't set out to do this initially, but as the culture really took hold, and we guarded jealously, but as it took hold, it really became very apparent that I didn't have to be concerned about what's going on a client site. It basically freed me up, um, gave me peace of mind that I knew exactly how everybody's operating across all of the various projects and across the different service lines and the different partners we work with. So it was actually a really good thing for me personally as well to have those core values in place and really to have everybody rally around them.
Right. I think that's a fantastic outcome when
Mhm.
you have a set of strong values that everybody in the company operates under consistently. Then you can predict in advance how the interaction with the customer is going to work. And you can trust that your team members, when faced with customers sometimes tough times, right,
Mhm.
will continue to behave according to those values and continue to look at delivering value to the company, but also value to their counterparts within that
Right.
company. I thought that was a very good point. It's not about value creation as we're going to create a 20% improvement here and there. It's also what is the value for Mary who's going to be using the software that you're deploying. I think that's a fantastic insight.
Yeah, absolutely, Bernard. And I will say, there has never been a perfect project, right? There's always things that happen, and some of those things are outside of our control and outside of the client's control, or there's things that happen from a resource constraint perspective. And one of the things we've always talked to our people about is it's not about what happens because things are going to happen. It's about how we react to that. That's what makes a difference. That's what your client's going to remember when they encounter something difficult or they encounter something that they perceive to be a problem. How do you address it? And that's something that we've drilled into our people and our core value support, addressing that quickly. And that's part of that. Be impeccable with your word is also like if you say you're going to do something, you tell the client that we're going to address that, you address it. Or if you don't, if something pops up, you're always communicating, right? You always let them know where they're
Right.
where you are in that process. So their expectations are being managed throughout. And it's been a really good experience for our team to operate like this. We don't have high turnover. Our turnover rate is super low, but we did have some turnover. Like actually, our first turnover in the fall was our first turnover in 5 years. One of the things that the guy said when he was leaving was like, "This is the my hardest company I've ever left." And he's been at a few companies, not a lot. He doesn't jump around a lot, but he was saying it's the hardest company I've ever left because you guys do what you say you do, and and you allow us to take care of our clients. And he's like, I've enjoyed every second of it. So it was a really good testament. When somebody's walking out the door, you tend to find out the truth about what's going on that maybe they wouldn't have shared before. And so having that shared with me on the exit interview, I was over the moon, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's great. Ultimately, what I love about it is it creates trust. I mean, it's an easy word, right, to mention, but how you develop trust between yourselves within the company,
Hmm.
that you can operate based on a certain set of cultural values, but also how you use those values to create trust in the minds of your customers and prospects. And I've seen you in action, how you develop trust in the minds of your prospects and customers because of the way you behave, the way you make decisions. So it's working, and I applaud you for the values you've selected, the way you've deployed them, and the team you have around you that is acting according to those values in a very consistent manner. I think that absolutely makes a difference in your the success of your business.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bernard. I will say trust is a cascade, really. Your client will pick up on if you trust your people, right? And so if everybody trusts everybody on the team, and the client will pick up on that, they'll trust you, and then you've got to you jealously guard that trust, because once you break that trust, getting it back is a hell of a lot harder than keeping it.
Right. I You made an excellent point there too. The client senses when you trust your customer facing employees.
Absolutely.
And I think that gives them confidence themselves in those frontline employees, in those customer facing employees, that because they have your trust and because they operate based on making the customer successful, that they're trustworthy as well in their interactions with the customers. I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
Now, how do you again measure the impact of your cultural values on your performance? Do you have some sort of a balanced scorecard that measures how those cultural values impact maybe customer engagement or customer satisfaction on top of the financial and operational metrics?
Absolutely. Yeah. A balanced scorecard is extremely important, especially as you grow. And as we've been through some iterations of it, right? We started off with kind of your normal measurements, which tend to be lagging indicators of, well, how much, how many deals did we close? What was our revenue? Things like that. And then over time, we evolved a little bit, and we were like, okay, the lagging indicators are fine and they tell you how you did, but they're not going to tell you how you're going to do. And so, I really challenge the team is like, okay, if I get stuck on a desert island, right, and I can only see a scorecard, one time a week, what needs to be on that scorecard so that I know our health of our business, how we're doing. And so we really looked for a lot of those kind of leading indicators of what are the activities, what if I know, for example, my percentages based on how many meetings I'm having or how many SOWs we generate, how many demos we do, what's the close ratio, at what point we were involved in the sales process. We know we close higher if we're involved earlier. We track all of that. So we can look at the leading indicators that give us an indication then of what we're going to be closing from a pipeline perspective. And that has been, for me, also really, really helpful to be able to understand all of the scorecard activities and what's going on where I'm not, you know, I don't want to go to my people and while they're busy servicing the client and say, hey, I need this report. I need these numbers, right? We've already made it part of the balance scorecard. So we don't have to go around and harass people, and everybody kind of owns their own number and it all reports in. So the balance scorecard, I think, is a critical component. And from a CSAT perspective, also, like we talk about sales, and that makes sense, right? Scorecard numbers on sales are a lot easier, a lot more straightforward, right? Than tracking
Right.
kind of what your efficacy and your delivery method is. So we definitely are very vigilant on NPS and CSAT reporting. And so we actually don't wait. Most of the consulting companies I worked with before that, you finish a project, they send out a CSAT survey, and then you just wait back for that, and you get some feedback, and that's your CSAT. And so we have put in checkpoints actually, while we're on the project, where we can then have those conversations, we can do a survey, we can see how we're doing, we can have the conversations. If there's some area we need to address, we know right then and there we can course correct. And so we try and do that early and often, and make sure that we are addressing the client's expectations. And I remember hearing a story one time about perception, right? And it makes sense if you think about it. You're standing on one side, I'm standing on another side, and we have a number drawn between us, and I see a 6 and you see a 9. We're both right. So your
Yeah,
perception as a member of the client team may be different than what I perceive, but you're right. And so we need to understand what that perception is. And sometimes it's not 100%, hey, we love you guys, you're crushing it. It might be that we missed something and we need to address that as we move. And so back to our core values then, our team knows to listen. Our team knows that we're trying to make sure that not only are we doing a good job for the client, but we're doing a good job for that project manager or the person, the buyer, right? The people that
right.
brought us in, because ultimately buying professional services isn't super straightforward. Has to be a great deal of trust there, because people are coming in and they are ultimately going to be a big component of whether that project is successful or not. And so we want to alleviate any qualms as early and often as we can.
Yeah. No, I think what you said about listening to the customer, measuring customer sat along the way, it goes back to this notion of empathy, being able to understand the other person's point of view, the other person's feelings, perspective on the situation. And to me, this is a core value of success. Because if
Right.
you listen actively to the customer, you can truly understand the root cause of their pain points. You can truly understand how to make them successful. You can design successful solutions and successful projects that map to what's really important to them. When you don't listen actively, when you don't capture what's in the minds of the customer, you make mistakes. You are not aligned with their perspectives and their goals and their aspirations. And that disconnect means projects can fail. Be able to truly listen to the customer at every step of the project, and mapping how the project evolves based on how they believe they're going to be able to measure their own success, I think is absolutely fantastic. And that's the way to make sure the values are actually practiced and implemented every single day. So I think that's excellent. So you measure basically NPS, customer satisfaction, CSAT, every step of the way. Do you have any way to measure employee engagement based on those cultural values, and how do they relate to your financial and operational metrics?
Yes, we're a little bit unique because we did come out of post 2020, post
Right,
COVID timeframe. So we are a 100% remote workforce. When
right,
you're in the office, a lot of times you have a lot more engagement because you get the water cooler talk, and you go for dinner and you go for lunch and you kind of have that FaceTime. So we are very, very particular, very conscious about how do we engage our workforce, and making sure that we do things that create camaraderie and things like that. So we have a lot of employee activities that we do. We did like an escape room, a virtual escape room exercise, where we had different teams, and we do, get together and have quizzes with happy hours. And we sent everybody Grubhub order a luncheon, and we're going to have a lunch and learn, and we, played a game and did all kinds of things. And so we do things like that, right? So we do a lot of very, very specific things to engage them outside of work. And then also our employees know that we are very cognizant of the work and effort they put in. So actually on Wednesday mornings, we blocked a time off. We call it GSD day, and it's getting stuff done, right? It's like no meetings, no internal meetings. Try and keep it out of clients, because you've got activities you've got to catch up on based on the client meetings you
right.
had the day before, the 2 days before, whatever. And so we block time off on our company calendar that says, this is your time to take care of things. And so,
Yeah,
but more than that, we do actually have some internal surveys that we do to measure our engagement, to measure how they engage and how they're satisfied with what we're doing internally for them. And so again, we've had very, very high marks there as a testament to the fact that we don't have much turnover. But we continue, again, like regarding our culture, we continue to engage and survey them, be very cognizant of how we're engaging them as well. So we kind of treat them like our clients. And, ultimately, if you think about the upside down pyramid, right, we're that level of support. We treat them like clients as well, right? We've got a job as a leadership team to help them thrive.
I think that's fundamental, and I'm so glad you brought that up. It's the notion of servant leadership, and making sure you focus on making your frontline team members successful and effective in delivering value to your customers. Ultimately, that's the coal face.
Hmm.
That's what leadership should be focusing on every single day: is how do we enable people at the coal face to deliver value to our customers. So I think that's
Right.
well said. I love what you said about those engagement activities. Did you come up with those, or was that a sort of a your wisdom of the crowds, everybody on the team volunteering some of those engagement activities that you perform virtually?
There's much more creative people than me on my team. So they came up with a lot of those activities and they've just made it so much fun. Everybody looks forward to them and there's a lot of laughter and we have a really, really good time. And then, we do travel. So anytime we travel, we try and get together with whoever's in that area. And so, we do make it a point to try and get together as face to face. And that's actually something we're going to start instituting here. Probably next year, we'll probably start pulling the company together, have an all hands meeting face to face where we all get together at a site. But yeah, all those activities are really team led.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I
And
love hearing that. Now, on top of obviously being a founder and a CEO of your company, you also act as a partner with your software customers or
Mhm.
partners.
Right.
And we acted together while I was part of a software company and we partnered together. Partner management is essential for software companies to succeed. It's obviously essential part of your business, but very often it's very difficult to make it work right because of all the frictions between two companies trying to come together on the same piece of paper, same battle plan.
Mhm.
You're doing it very well. At least my experience has been you're a great partner. What is your secret to your success as a partner? What are you looking at to make sure that, from a partner perspective, you and the software company that you're partnering with get on the same page and do for each other's best interests?
Yeah, and I will say it definitely drives out of our culture. So our culture is not just for our clients. It's not just internal. It is how we operate in the world. And so when we go and we work with a partner team, going back to being impeccable with your word and doing what you say you're going to do and being in contact, helping others thrive, right? We don't take ourselves too seriously. We like to have fun with the partner team as well. And we also always look for, we have kind of ingrained in our culture to challenge the status quo and think of things differently. And so if there's an area where we think we can help the partner team, then we'll help the partner team approach something differently or there's been scenarios with certain partner teams where we're like, hey, can we change how we do this because we think this will alleviate some pressure on you and it'll make our communication better. And so there's just things that we will bring up and we just try and be, back to your point around friction, we try and be as frictionless as possible. Part of what we said originally when we founded the company was we wanted to be an extension of the client team, but we also are an extension of that partner team. They're on our team. We're all trying to generate value for our clients. And so if we can remove that friction, help them thrive in their partner roles, and also, help the salespeople that we're partnering with. We like to co-sell. We like to do all kinds of things that add value throughout the entire process. That just makes life better for all of us,
Yeah.
and then makes the life better for the client, right?
And talking again about what matters the most is the interaction uh, at at the core phase. What I've seen your team do very well is the connection and the trust they establish with the sales reps and the account managers on the software company side, one engagement at a time. That both parties really align to provide the best service, the best outcome possible to the customer, one engagement, one customer at a time. I think your team does that extremely well. That's not always the case. So kudos for, again, how the values have transpired into your project managers and engagement consultants being so value driven, working with both the partner that they're supporting and partnering with, as well as the customer. So job well done for sure.
Well, thank you for that. And one of the things going kind of back to the scorecard, we track everything from that perspective as well, from the partner side. And one of the things that we know, and we've lived this, is that CSAT scores. It's a rising tide, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. So if we can come into a client that maybe has been on the struggle bus, right? And we can come in and we can help them raise their CSAT scores with the technology. They're getting more ROI. They're happy with it. Then what ends up happening is they end up expanding ACV, or it increases the software partner CSAT scores, and there's more opportunity there. And so it is one of those things where we like to, again, from that partnership perspective, help bring up those CSAT scores at the client level, because again, that just cascades from there.
Right. Oh, very well done. So, in summary of this, we talked about the impact of cultural values to
Mhm.
drive the behavior of your frontline team members and the focus on the business outcomes they deliver to your customers, and how impactful those values are in guiding the behaviors and the decisions that your team members deliver every day, sometimes with you not being in the room. They know
Mhm.
what to do, and they do it consistently and predictably because of the impact of those values. So I think that's number one. Number two,
Mhm.
obviously, the fact that you're tracking the impact of those values in your balanced scorecard, not only the financial metrics and the operational metrics, but also how you track and amplify employee engagement, and how you track customer satisfaction every step of the way to ensure you stay on track by listening to the customers and using customer sat surveys as a way to really keep your ear to the ground and make sure you keep listening to what's
Mhm.
going on out there so you can adapt and adjust and ultimately deliver success. So I think that's great. And finally, as a partner, the fact that your team member again looks at creating value for the software provider you partner with the customer you partner with, and develop very tight connections at the coal phase to ensure that the projects are ultimately delivered successfully. I think those are three great outcomes that we've talked about today. This being said, I'd love to leave the last word for you, which is based on this conversation today. I'd love to hear what is your leave behind? What is the call to action you would like to leave for the audience today out of this conversation?
Yeah, thank you for that. And here's what I'd love the audience to walk away with is, Bernard, you and I come at this from different angles, right? You built holistic selling around empowering frontline sales teams with values like integrity, empathy, value creation. Similarly, we built Drive around empowering our delivery teams to deliver well, do the right thing, be impeccable with our word, help others thrive, and constantly evolve. But the insight is the same. When your people are empowered by the right values, your customers become the heroes of the story, not an afterthought. And that's something we've really sought out to do from the very beginning, is make our clients, the people at our customers, make them the heroes of the story, not us. We're not the heroes, right? We're the guide. They're Luke Skywalker, we're Yoda. So my challenge to the audience is this. If you look at the gap between your sales culture and your delivery culture, if those aren't aligned, if the experience your client was promised isn't the experience your team is set up to deliver, that's where transformation breaks down. We've proven that at Groves and Company that closing that gap is really what turns implementation into actual outcomes. If that resonates, I'd love to connect. You can visit grovesandcompany.com or find me on LinkedIn. And Bernard, if people want to explore how to build the same values alignment on the sales side, they should absolutely check out holisticselling.com. I think together these two sides of the house are how you actually transform an organization.
I think that's a fantastic leave behind and fantastic call to action for the audience today. So, Jeff, I want to thank you for participating in the podcast today. Great lessons learned, great insights, and always good to talk to you and maintain our relationship. So, with that, I'll close the podcast today. Thanks everyone for listening in, and thanks again, Jeff, for your contribution today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bernard. Always nice to talk to you.